Okay, Dreamer, please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're looking at Shadow Karma in Advent Expedition. For Shadow Karma, he does resist magic attacks, so you definitely have to use physical damage and use those with triple target skills, which is 3MN AoEs. Karma also accumulates defense boost stacks, and when he uses one of his skills at max stacks, he does do additional damage here. So what you want to do is buff your team to do as much possible damage to Karma as possible. Again, similarly, he will have the Advent Expedition Resistance effect, whereby he decreases magic damage taken, and also decreases damage from single, double, 4-man and 5-man AoEs. So basically for this particular skill, his skill 2, he will be able to grant himself 1 stack of Perseverance, which increases his defense, which basically is the stacks that he is stacking up to deal more damage to you. He also does piercing damage to 3 enemies, so upon having 8 stacks, he is able to deal additional piercing damage, equal to 40% of magic attack and 46% of defense on each attack, and that is 3 attacks, because it hits 3 times. It does have a 15-second cooldown, so this is going to go very fast. For his other skill, it has a 20-second cooldown. It also gives himself 1 stack of Perseverance, and it also does defense ignoring damage. So technically he can accumulate 2 stacks of Perseverance once he uses both skills. So this will be the particular team I'll be using. Karma's team comms compared to Yonhi is definitely a lot less varied, so you don't have to worry too much about having a hard time deciding what to use, only because physical damage teams are more limited in terms of the heroes they can use. So we're gonna have Fengyan, Taka as the main damage leaders, along with B-Dump on the second team. If you have a T6 Rachel, you can actually use Rachel as a sub DPS as well, and you can run a 2-3 formation for both particular teams. Of course, the typical standard buffers include Lina, Biscuit, Ace, and Rachel here. Eileen here and Seek are for physical attack increases. Yui here is not just for heals, but also does increase physical damage. So if you want to sub her out for Dylan's, you can do that as well, but just to make sure you have enough sustain in the phase 2, because phase 2 is definitely the phase where you want to spend more time in. So again, just keep in mind that Biscuit and Ace does the same thing in terms of having defense down, so make sure to use them in separate teams. What ideally you want to do for Karma is to do as much damage to him as possible before he stacks up his defense stacks, right, his Perseverance, because of course the higher his stacks go, the less damage you're gonna do. So ideally you want to do more damage quickly, and then once his stacks get increased to a very high amount, you will take that time to instead start to heal your team or do whatever is necessary. But of course, if you are a very strong player, you don't really need to care about the defense stacks. You just have to push through with all the damage you can, because ultimately, again, phase 1's priorities is still to clear the phase 1 as fast as possible, so that you'll be able to make it to phase 2, where you can start accumulating score and damage from there. Some people also use B-Dump on this particular phase and save Taka for the next phase. That's also possible. Mainly, the skill queue is going to be the same. You're going to buff with Biscuit and Lina, and then you are going to use the skills available from Taka and Fengyan to do as much damage as possible. As you can see here, Karma is already on 6 stacks, so damage wise it's going to start decreasing from here until he reaches 8 stacks and clears off all his stacks. So a good thing is that his skill cooldown is actually pretty fast, as we saw, 20 seconds and 15 seconds. So it's actually able to rack up these stacks very quickly and then just unleash them on you. So maybe you would like to use the heal if you are taking too much damage from his skill later on. So once his stacks have decreased back to 0, have been removed from the skill, basically this skill, not much damage actually, but yeah. But once the stacks have been removed after the usage of that particular skill, proceed to use all your DPS attacks again. Ideally, the skill cooldown should coincide very nicely, so your skills, from your DPSs should be ready by this time, and then just spam them after possibly rebuffing with Lina or Biscuit where necessary, so that your damage here will be substantial and you can quickly nuke him down. Unfortunately, if you were to look at the turn count, I'm really taking a long time with this particular flaw. One thing to note again is to remind yourself that Taka's top skill is much better off when the enemy drops below 30% HP. So if you like, you can use this bar to actually monitor Karma's HP percentage and potentially save your Taka's top skill, so that when Karma falls below 30%, using it will have much better effect and efficiency. Unfortunately, we missed the weakness hit there, but I mean, it's okay, what can we do? So honestly, you're kind of limited in terms of damage output, right? And you can see here the turn count is going by very quickly. We're already on turn 60 and we're still on phase 1. So it's very unfortunate that I'm not able to show you guys the phase 2, but the idea is pretty much the same. Okay, I think Karma is probably one of the most straightforward bosses among the 4. So you don't have to think too much when you're fighting Karma. And that's a good thing. Okay, honestly, that's a good thing. And yeah, we just barely made it to 1 million at turn 70. So technically, after clearing this, we will have been able to go into phase 2 and proceed with Bidam's team to do more damage and increase the score. So let's look at gear. One particular reason why I didn't do enough damage was probably because Taka wasn't on the Avenger set. So Avenger set is very important for extra damage. Feng Yan can also use the Avenger set, but as you can see, both of them are using the crit set here to ensure that their critical rate is high enough. Eileen here is on the effect hit rate, which is not very important because you're not going to shock Karma at all. Biscuit here is on the block set for more sustain. And you have Lina here on the block set as well, again for more sustain. If you want to use the HP set, you can also use that for more heals. But again, healing is not a priority here. For Bidam, he should be on the Avenger set. Unfortunately, we cannot see that happen. For Rachel, she's on the HP set, but if you are using her as a sub DPS, you can actually use the Avenger set for her, or weakness hit or crit rate. For Sig, he's on the Vanguard set, and then for Ace, he's on the block set for more sustain. If you want to use Sig with block set, it's also fine. Yui should be on the HP set, which I forgot to show. So for alternate teams, as I mentioned, this is a more try-hard team whereby we are actually using Phi for exploit vulnerability passive, and also using Sig instead of Eileen here and Ace instead of Biscuit here. So again, you can see that there are some units that are interchangeable depending on how you want to use them and your focus. But here, as you can see, Team 1 is mainly focused on nuking. That's why Phi is here for exploit vulnerability passively. You can also use Ace's increase exploit vulnerability via his skill so that you can do more damage with this particular team, so that you can clear phase 1 very quickly. Whereas for phase 2, you have Eileen there, which is more passive, so you actually don't want to use as many skills here. So you have Biscuit and Lina here for the buffs to make sure that Bidam does substantial damage, and you also have Rachel there for a lot of the debuffing of the enemy. This is without a doubt one of the better teams that you can run for Karma if you do have the units available. And as I mentioned, if you do have Rachel at T6, she can actually be used in the backline with Bidam as well. And this doesn't change the team that much, it only just pushes Rachel to the back, such that you are using 2-2-3 formations for both teams. Okay, again, the teams don't really vary. You can also swap Sig and Eileen over depending on your preference, Biscuit and Ace as well, depending on how fast you can nuke the phase 1. If you feel that your team 1 is lacking certain buffs and lacking maybe weakness hit, for example, to do more damage, then you can actually focus on your team 1, because if your team 1 isn't doing enough damage, you are taking too long, then you want to relook into your strategy by focusing on team 1 instead, so that you will be able to reach that 1 million score much faster and still do some damage later on in phase 2. Because if you take too long in phase 1, the most you can go is 1 million and nothing more. One other possibility, if you don't have Phi, of course, not many people have Phi, it will be to use Lina on team 1 to increase damage output, and then team 2 you can actually go for Yui or for healing purposes, okay, so they have 2 healers on either team. Or you can go for Dylan's, as I mentioned, for physical damage increase. This will allow your team to have more balanced damage in that sense, because if you don't have Phi, you won't have exploit vulnerability on one side. So what you want to do is try to increase the maximum potential amount of damage possible by having active defense down as well with Lina, and also increasing your Taka and Feng Yan's damage for team 1, while also maintaining physical damage for team 2 with the Rachel debuffs applied. So with that, we come to the end of this karma guide. I hope it helped. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, because I know Advent Expedition team comms can be very confusing. If you found this video helpful, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more Advent Expedition guides and videos. Thank you so much and see you!